can we please take a minute to talk about how exhausting it is to cleanse your spirits? It is exhausting. It is emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, energetically exhausting. Cleaning your internals out, opening your chakras, releasing your energy systems, fueling them, cleaning them, purging anything you don't want, purging all of the old programming. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. And that's okay. It's supposed to be. That's normal. And it can be confusing, and it can be frustrating, and it can be upsetting. So many things. But after you go through it, it's okay, you know, it's better. Like, you're renewed, you're reborn, you're rebirthed, you're rejuvenated, you're refreshed. You get to come into tune with who you really are, what you really want to become. You get to start to attract what you really want. You don't have to go through these peaks and valleys. You don't have to be so, you know, up and down. And as you cleanse and you get to choose your environment and choose your surroundings and block humans out of your life, block them out of your sight, never speak to them again, move to different, you know, living quarters, you really begin to thrive. And once you get to have your own space and your own environment, and you can have your home should be your refuge. It should be your safe space. It should be your sanctuary. It should be where you feel the most comfortable to be yourself in every way. It should be a place that's full of love and positivity and happiness and health and wellness and goodness, and it should be spiritually charged, and it should be full of dreams and all the good things that you want to attract. Your home should be your sanctuary. It should not be a nightmare. It should not be a battlefield. It should not be full of toxic energies and old negativity. All of that has to go. You have to get rid of all of it. Purge it, block it out, eliminate it. So it comes down even to, like, the small things are the big things. Like, if there's a certain genre of music that just pisses you off or reminds you of something that you don't want in your life, get rid of it. Fucking get rid of it. If you don't like the color yellow, throw everything out that's yellow. Like, you don't have to learn to live with things and adjust. That doesn't make you stronger. You need your environment that you're going to grow in and evolve in and become your highest, best self. You need that space to be exactly what you need. And then you can deflect everything on the outside when you exit your layer of environment and put up your protective shield of love and light, and, you know, all's well. But if your home's a battlefield and then the outside world's a battlefield, you'll never have peace. Peace is from within. But even the most peaceful person, who's the most settled, if your home becomes invaded with pollutions and toxins, eventually it will get inside. It's like proven fact. I mean, if you have fish in a fish tank and then the fish tank is overtaken with, you know, fungus and all this shit, the fish will eventually die. They will eventually get sick and die. Well, the same thing with humans. So if your household isn't running congruently and everybody's not on the same page and loving and supportive, then eventually, you know, obviously, negativity will start to transpire. And then you create, a human will go into stress and cortisol levels will rise and so many things. And for me personally, I know all of this. I always speak from experience. I don't speak about shit I don't know, because if I don't know, I ain't gonna speak on it like I know. Like, I'm not gonna read a book and be like, oh, well, I know. Like, if I've experienced things, and then I've learned things, and then, or I've, like, witnessed things firsthand, that's enough. Like, you can learn through experiences from somebody else's experience if you're there firsthand, or you know that person firsthand and you saw what it's done to their life. Like, that's usually enough experience. Like, if you're not an alcoholic but you've lived with an alcoholic, or you've had a family member that's an alcoholic and you've seen their life go down the tunnel, like, that's enough. You don't have to become the alcoholic to know what that does. You know what I'm saying? So, like, usually I always speak on facts, and what I know is true. So when people want to argue about me or about facts, I'm just like, no. Don't be letting people fake you or try to pretend to be you, because unless they're actually you, they can't. They can't. Nobody's had the exact same experiences. So you might have two people who've gone through the same thing, but it might have affected them completely differently because of their past programming, because of how they choose to see the world, because of their belief systems. Like, somebody who's grown up in, like, a Muslim church versus somebody who's grown up in a Mormon church versus somebody who's grown up with Scientology versus somebody who grows up with spirituality versus somebody who believes in nothing. They can all go through the exact same experience and view it completely different. Incomparable. That's why stereotypes and judging and assuming is so fucking stupid. It's so fucking stupid, because you don't... Anyways, I'm, like, so off topic right now, but I had a huge spiritual purge today. Like, I really did. Like, I had a spiritual purge. Like, I felt the spiritual shift in me, and I've had a few of these before, where I just let the energies, and I let all the different spirits, I just let them come. I let God be within me. I let the light come, and I just let the transformation happen. And it's very spiritual. I feel like it's very native. It brings me to my native roots. Like, I feel my ancestors in those moments. I feel their wisdom. I feel their strength. I feel the light. I feel the old leaving me. I feel, and it's exhausting, and, I sweat, and it's very godly. It's very, it's just very out of this world. It's very spiritual. Like, I'm a very, very, very spiritually in tuned individual. Like, I am very much feed off of energies and frequencies, and I can tell when other people's energies are off, and when I'm surrounded by negative energies, like, it definitely affects me. But if I'm in a really good, strong space, and I'm really solid in my mindset and in my protection layer, then it's very easy for me to just feed off of my own energy, not, be affected by anybody else's energy. I'm really good at creating my own motivation, my own energy, my own fields, but being drowned by negativity is challenging. So anyways, it has just been, the past 6 years of my life have been, I honestly would describe it as like a living nightmare. Like, I honestly feel like I walked through the valley of the shadow of death, and I took a look at my life and realized there's not much left. Because my mama definitely think my mind is fucking blown, but I know it ain't. But I really feel like I have just traveled through the valley of death. Like, the past 6 years definitely was a test of my strength, my spirituality, my mentality, my grit, my just everything. Like, what I want, do I really want it, how dedicated I am, which I never even question, because I'm like, I always know what the fuck I want. Like, I've always known since I was like 4. I was like, bitch, I know where I'm going. Like, I'm going up to the top. I've always known that. I've always known what I don't want, definitely always known what I don't want. But, you know, I've also learned a lot. I've learned a lot because, you know, there's doubt and manipulation and just, you know, being around people who don't believe in themselves can be so drowning, and it can make you doubt yourself. But, you know, I feel like when you're a real OG, you, like, just, you know, you're enlightened differently. Like, I'm enlightened differently to where, like, I've always just known, like, even in my most doubtful, negative moments where I'm like, where I've been like, you know what, like, you almost feel like hopeless and like, what's the fucking point? Even on those days, like, I always still have a little glimmer of light that's like, nah, girl, you were meant for more. You got this, girl. Like, keep fucking going. You know what I mean? Always had my spirit guides, like, my whole life. And the funniest thing is, like, I always just thought, like, everybody it's like everybody has that, right? Like, I never really even thought about it. Like, I never considered that, like, some people's minds are just completely blank, like, all the time, which is so bizarre to me. Like, mine can be blank, and sometimes I just completely don't think, and, like, you know, you're just like a fucking robot and you go on autopilot, or you're like being driven by a motor. But ultimately, like, I've always had my spiritual guidance. I've always been connected to the cosmic intel. I've always received messages from beyond. I've always just had the knowing. Like, I've just always had that since I was a child. I feel like I was an adult as a child. Like, that's just my magic. And I feel very close to my native roots. I really do. Like, I always knew I was born for greatness. I didn't always know how things were going to happen. And sometimes a lot of things didn't go as planned. And then, you know, like, because, you know, people automatically assume, like, I wouldn't call it, like, psychic, but, you know, when I get messages or intels, like, it's not like, I'm not like a psychic, like, you can't, like, call me up and I can be like, oh, you know, here. Like, it doesn't work like that, for me, at least. It doesn't work like that. But everybody is different. But for me, like, when I have, prophecies or, what's the word, premonitions, like, it's usually about things that I'm like, well, you know, it's usually about things where it's like, oh, well, you're just gonna, like, you're gonna live in this house, or you're gonna have this house, or you're gonna be this one day, or, you know, and I never get to know, like, how it's gonna happen. I just get the information, and sometimes it takes, like, fucking years to come to fruition, but, you know. And it's funny, because when I receive messages, I can always tell what's for me and what's not. I can tell the difference. I can always tell the difference. Always. Never questioned what's for me and what's not, and what's just like a fear, or what's just, you know, a past trauma, or what's a past experience, or what's a projection, or what's just somebody planted a seed of some bullshit. I can always tell the difference, which, thank God for that. Like, I'm grateful for that. But it doesn't make me invincible, because, you know, part of humanity and being a creature of my nature, thy nature, makes you very sensitive to energies, frequencies, emotions, feelings. And, you know, I have had some challenging months and challenging years over the past 6 years where I was like, I didn't even recognize myself. I'm like, I don't even know who, and I'm not talking about physically, because I have changed a lot physically, but that is because I have invested and I have been trying to change my appearance physically. I have very much tried to change my physical appearance, and I still am. I'm like, I'm always like, ooh, let's make this tighter, and this, and this, and this, and this, and like, you know, it all costs money, so it's not happening as quick as I would like. But the point is, but like, I didn't recognize myself emotionally. Like, I didn't recognize my attitude. I wasn't recognizing my mindset. I was just being drowned by negative beings. And with all of that, I was just like, who the fuck am I? Like, I am just this angry person right now. Everything is triggering me. It was just very confusing, very hard. I was experiencing symptoms of PTSD that I have never experienced before. I'm very grateful for, you know, the information I was able to find online, the resources, you know, the books that I have read in the past. I read a lot of books when I was like 23 on Hinduism and Buddhism and meditation, and just, you know, all the psychology books I've read. And then I started reading books on PTSD, and just all the knowledge I had made it really easy for me to like step back and be like, okay, you know, like, you are being triggered right now, or you are having a reaction right now, or it's obviously because this, and that. And with all of that, it was also easy for me to identify, like, okay, so what do you need to do to make sure you're taking care of yourself and still showing up, to make sure you're still showing up for your child and doing what you need to do to keep some income flowing and still trying to maintain health and not be a fucking disruptive bitch to society because everybody was irritating me. Like, I couldn't walk out of the house without being irritated and triggered and just like freaking out. And it was just so bizarre. And after going through all of this, I just remember thinking like, oh my God, these poor and I don't mean to call them poor, but like, these men who go and serve for our country and fight wars, who come back and they're so easily irritated, or animals or children or women or men who are badly abused, and then they go through those experiences. I was just like experiencing on a whole new level. And I've always been a very empathetic person. Like, I've never been like judgy over people who, you know, claim to have an illness or struggle with depression or anything. Like, I've never been discriminative. I've never been a stereotyping, judgmental, discriminating person, actually. I like was mean to this girl once for no reason and told her she had ugly toes when I was like 12, and I felt so bad about it because she locked herself in the bathroom and cried. And we were at a birthday party. It was a birthday party. We were like 12, and she was being such a fucking bitch to me. And so I was like, you know what, your toes are ugly. And I felt so bad that she locked herself in the bathroom. I was like, oh my God, that is so mean. And I apologized. I was like, I'm sorry, your toes aren't really ugly, but you were really hurting my feelings. But you know, I told myself after that moment, I was like, I'm never gonna, like, there's a difference. If I'm a bitch to you because I'm standing up and I'm speaking truth, that there's a difference between that and just being a bitch. So anyways, I've never been stereotypical or judgmental, but just realizing like how many people didn't offer me the kindness or the benefit of the doubt when I was going through my trying time was very eye-opening about the lack of character and enlightenment and knowledge that a lot of people have. And so now, like, if I see somebody in a bad mood and they're shitty, I'll sure be like, you know what? I know how that feels. I understand. I have been there before. I get it. Like, this lady one time, she was like mad and she was just going off. And I was just like, girl, it is okay. Like, you could be mad at me. It is fine. I have been there before. That is a shitty place to be in. I'm so sorry you're feeling that way. Like, I hope you feel better. And I didn't say that to try to, like, make her more mad. It was just like, I get it, you know what I mean? Like, if somebody's enraged and they're going off, like, chances are there's a bunch of other shit going on with that person. To judge somebody off of, you know, a rough patch or a bad day is just, it's just no way to be, because in reality, everybody's gonna go through a trial or a trying time or a dark time, you know. Before that, I'd never really, you know, like, for me, anytime I've gone through a really challenging time, it was because of some major loss. Like, the first time it was like, you know, I became a single mom and I was really young, and so I was going through postpartum. I didn't even really realize I had postpartum, and I was trying to figure out how to be an adult on my own. I was like, moved into an apartment without fucking plates or silverware. I just knew I was like, I cannot raise a child at my parents'. I was like, not a healthy place for me to live. So, yeah. And then before that, like, it was like, oh, when my uncle died. My uncle died. And then I gained weight, and I was dating this very manipulative guy, who was, like, using gaslighting and narcissistic, like, not to use, like, the pulp culture narcissistic, but, like, literally I read this, like, entire book about it and was like, oh my god, like, he did all this to me. And I wouldn't even call him a boyfriend at this point. I refer to him as my ex, but he wasn't even a boyfriend. He was just, like, fucking using me. So it was just like, you know, when you have a lot of negative different things stacking up on each other, you know, that can cause a lot of stress and friction with people. And especially like when you have no support system, and if you're like a single person or you're a single parent and you're owning your own business and you're raising a child by yourself and you're doing everything, like, that's a lot. It's a lot. So anyways, you have to, I just said all this stuff and then my phone didn't record it. I'm telling you guys, I have a fucking hacker on my goddamn fucking phone. Someone hacks into my fucking phone. I switched my phone numbers. I've switched my passwords. I've switched phones. I mean, I've reported on every app. I'm just like, I don't even know what to do anymore. It's like fucking so frustrating, beyond frustrating. It's just so frustrating because it's like, I know I ain't crazy. I know you're fucking with me, asshole. So I'm just on a rampage right now. But y'all just, you know, trust yourself. I don't even know where I'm going with this. Oh yeah, just being exhausted from the past 6 years of my fucking life. Jesus. I lost everything, and then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna look at it like I was in a fire. You know, try to find the best view to look at it. And I was like, okay, so I'm gonna, like, and then I was just like, you know, when people are in fires and they lose everything in their house, like, that's fucking devastating. Like, things that are like, you'll never get back. Like, valuables, like sentimentals. Like, I'm a very sentimental thing. Like, clothes, like, I will hold on to clothing or an outfit or a pair of pants or a piece of jewelry for like ever, or like literature and cards and art and stuff from my childhood and my son. Like, I am very sentimental, and I like valuables, and I like stuff. I love stuff. I love things. And I had so much stuff stolen from me from my different houses and my different apartments. One of the landlords, like, stole all my Beanie Babies. Like, I had this awesome Beanie Baby collection, and my dad used to buy me these Beanie Babies, and they were really special to me. And I had this dollhouse furniture that my grandma bought for us when we were kids, and it was also really special to me. And I was like, oh, I always thought I was going to save it for if I had a daughter, but then I didn't end up having more kids. And now I'm like, I don't want to be an old parent, so I don't really want more kids now, because I want to focus on my future, my success. So I'm actually really bitter about that, and I always will be. It's all been stolen. It's been stolen. Like, my stuff was stolen from me. It's just so not right.